And again, going back to that thought that there are things going on that are so difficult, so complex, and we feel helpless, not knowing how to fix it. That is the time to remember that we are humans. Hello everyone, I am Tamara with Lucha Bianca, and today I want to talk about being a light worker, being hopeful, being a beacon of light, even during these really difficult times. It is my hope that today's message will be one that brings us more hope in these dark times. I think most of us are familiar with the news and what is happening around the world and the conflicts and the wars, the massacres, the death tolls. And it can be very easy to become either demoralized by them or almost desensitized. Sometimes we purposely detach ourselves from what is happening because it is easier to accept that it's not happening to us. For those of us who are empaths, it can be especially hard to process the feelings and emotions associated with the times, with current events. So it is my hope that today we can have a conversation about how we can still be light workers in this world, even during difficult times. And how do you feel and let God, Creator, still be in control of everything, knowing that there is a higher power and all of this is working out for good, even when we don't see that good, even when things don't look great and the situation is dire and dark. So many of us are probably feeling exhausted, appalled, or just really disappointed by a lot of the things that we hear on the news today. And I want to specifically not to mention or label, each one of these conflicts and news that we hear, because I don't want to talk specifically about them. I want to focus in this video on how we can feel like we can still make a difference. So it's very hard when we watch the news and, we see just cities destroyed and innocent people basically losing their lives, right? And those images make us feel like, how can we actually make a difference? This conflict, this darkness is so much bigger than we are. We're just these insignificant people, in a way, living across the world. And there is really nothing that we can individually do to make a difference and save any lives. So it's very easy to fall into that thinking. But as a light worker, or even just someone who wants to spread light in this world, it is important to remember that we are not just small, insignificant people. We have sovereignty and divinity inside each and every one of us. So whatever you believe in, whether it's God, Goddess, Source, Universe, Creator, Spirit, you are made from that same light code. You are made from that divinity. that means that you have divine power and a divine presence within you. You are divine. I am divine. Together, we are part of this cloth that was made from the universe. And that power that made us is also the power in us. Once we start putting things into perspective and we start realizing that the divine power, all that is, the great I am, is inside of us, we realize that we're actually not these simple humans. And we have to believe, I believe, that Creator and the lightness and love from Creator is way bigger, way bigger than any darkness, any war, any conflict that may be happening in this world. The divine power of Creator, of Source, is pure love and pure light. And again, if it is embedded into our own DNA, because we come from Source, that means that we too are much bigger than the darkness. Just by being light, just by acknowledging that we are more than this 3D flesh vehicle, we are making that statement that no matter how big or deep that darkness may look like, we're actually so much stronger than that. So the first step, I would encourage us all to once again feel empowered, remembering where we come from, remembering who we are, and remembering that love and peace and kindness prevails over any darkness. Another thing we can do may seem counterproductive. It may seem void, or there's a sense of non-doing, but I really believe it's super powerful. And that is to retrieve and get into silence and pray or meditate. We have constant reminders of choosing sides, watching the news, listening to our friends and family's opinions, work, kids, the stress of life. It is too much to try to fit in all of these things and still being a light in the world, right? So it is during these times that I think hitting that pause button and retrieving, and by retrieving, I mean finding a space during your day where you can be alone for a little while in silence and just sit in that silence. A lot of people are afraid of silence. We are sort of accustomed to wanting to fill in silence as if silence is awkward. It's like, it feels uncomfortable. Many of us feel vulnerable in the silence because that's when you can actually hear the whispers of your soul and what your heart is saying. And a lot of times we don't feel ready to hear that raw, vulnerable truth. So that silence becomes almost unbearable. And we have a tendency of wanting to fill it up with something, right? Either watching the news or being scrolling on social media or talking to a friend or, blasting music. But silence is so important. It is actually really, really powerful. And when I teach my meditation classes, I try to give the participants some time where there is just silence and inner stillness. And I think during these times when things seem so complex and difficult and we don't have a solution for everything or for any of it because we're not in control of it, what we can do is we can sit in that silence and just really align our thoughts and our prayers with what's going on, especially the people who are suffering. It may seem like a cop-out. It may seem like, that's not enough because we're not physically helping them. But if you are like me and you believe in the power of vibration and energy and that your thoughts and words create your reality, then you know that getting still and turning inward and just sending a heartfelt prayer and words of encouragement and holding someone in light, it is actually transmitting that energy out into the world. And We don't have all the answers. There are things going on across the world right now where we don't know the full story. We don't understand every aspect. So it is very hard to figure out a fix, a solution. But just because we don't know the answer to that, it doesn't mean we can't be humans. And be humans meaning relating to suffering, relating to what people are going through, and stopping for just a moment and sitting with them energetically and holding them in our heart and asking Spirit, God, to sit with us and send them almost like an energetic embrace so they can feel the vibrations, they can feel the love being sent to them. I think that's really, really powerful. And again, going back to that thought that there are things going on that are so difficult, so complex, and we feel helpless, not knowing how to fix it. That is the time to remember that we are humans. We are having a human experience. Even though we have this divine power and strength of us, we are still subject to a human experience. So in these times, it is very important to remember there is a higher power out there. And we have to trust that this higher power will set things right. We have to trust that this higher power has a reason and a purpose for everything. And I know that is a very difficult thing to do. It is very difficult to justify massacres and violence and evil. But it is what we're faced with. We have to deal with it. This is the world and the situations we live in at times. So we do have to understand that there is a higher power in control at all times. And when we feel helpless and we don't know what to do anymore, we can go to this higher power and we can ask in meditation, in prayer, what will you have me do? How can I be that light? How can I be somehow supportive to the suffering that people are feeling? Another thing I believe we can do, which is also very difficult, is trying to look at the current situation not with earthly eyes, but with divine eyes. What can we learn about the situation from a divine, high vibrational level? What is it teaching us to live through times of darkness and war? What does it mean to look at things from the higher perspective of God, of Source? Can we actually look at things without the bias, without the things we hear, the opinions and information that we are fed by the news and social media and people in our lives? Can we actually leave that behind and look at it from the perspective of God and how He would be looking at the situation? And what does that teach us about the human race as a whole? What does it point out about the human race? And there will probably be many things that are dark and awful. So maybe that is the shadow work that we all together as a collective need to work on. And uniting together from that divine perspective right now and joining in prayer as many people as possible, that will help us deal with the situation from a higher power, not from our helpless human side of this experience. Another thing to do is to actually create light. I mean, as in actually lighting a candle and inviting friends and family to do the same thing, whether with you in person or in their own time, just having everyone gathering together in thought or in presence and lighting a candle and praying. So there are some really beautiful quotes about the power of people coming together as a group and praying. In the Bible, Matthew 18:20, I'm paraphrasing, but it basically says where two or more people gather together to pray, God is in their midst. Meaning that God recognizes when people join together and hold that light and space for each other and call on Him, He is there among them. So there is so much power in coming together. We have also heard Mother Teresa saying how powerful it is, and there's so much strength in people coming together to pray together, to rejoice together, also to suffer together. And we try to avoid suffering at all costs, but there are times when we feel helpless, that the only thing we can do is at least suffer for a little bit in sympathy and in love and in support to other people who are having a terrible human experience, coming together and sharing some of that energy, because we have to stick together. We have to come together and hold each other accountable and also hold each other in light and love. I also wanted to pull a card for this specific topic. And I thought that it would be really powerful to pull from a deck that seems to be quite appropriate. So it is Tarot de la Nuit, which is French for Tarot of the Night. And it's a deck that really focuses on the shadow part, on the darkness side of things. But the card that I pulled is the Page of Pentacles. And it is a very beautiful card. And just the image alone gives off a lot of warmth and hope and light. And I thought it was so fitting that we have a woman basically holding light in her hand, which is what we just talked about. So it just shows you right there how God is always listening, how what we align ourselves with, things will come to aid us in that alignment. So the Page of Pentacles is all about making things happen and to go after the dream, go after your achievement, go after what you are seeking, knowing that you have the power within to make it happen. Holding light for yourself and others to make sure that that dream and that goal comes through. And it also calls us to be very focused. So this card is about being lucid, being aware, being present. In order to make what you want a reality, you really need to hold that light so you can see where you're going. And in order to see where you're going, you have to have your eyes open. You have to listen. You have to learn. And I think it's important that we do this right now as well, trying to understand what we're faced with as a society and what we want to change and what we want to accomplish as a collective. This is also a card about taking clear action, meaning figuring out what it is that you can do to make your own kind of difference. So I feel that these little things we just talked about creating light, praying together, looking at things from a higher perspective, not becoming so desensitized or demoralized to the point where we just turn a blind eye and walk away from it, holding people in their suffering. Anything that we decide to do is just taking that inspired action and see it through and carry it through. So if you're watching this today, Friday the 13th, I'm in Eastern time at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight in my private Facebook tribe group. I'm holding a 15-minute lighting a candle in prayer. So if you happen to divinely see this video before then, I invite you to come join us and be part of that prayer, be part of that light. 7 to 7:15. It's a short amount of time to just come together, light a candle, and say a few words for world peace and holding people in love and light. But even if you don't see this on time to join us, I encourage you to light that candle for yourself and for the world, and to just look within, stay in silence for a few minutes and pray, and make your part, your contribution in being that light and believing that you can make a difference by just choosing love. And I know it sounds cliche. Everyone can say, just choose love. And it seems like it doesn't change much. But if every single person chose love, then we wouldn't be where we're at right now as a society. And some of the awful things going on in the world wouldn't be happening. So the more we can pray for people to open their eyes to love and kindness, especially now that we are being called as a collective to awaken to a higher vibration and let go of this earthly junk that we don't need to hold on to anymore. We have to be persistent. We have to follow that lead and believe and have faith. I hope this video and this message resonates with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, just to hear me out. I pray that you can also find peace and love for yourself. And I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear if you light a candle and say a prayer, just aligning our comments for love and positivity, and saying, even writing down even a comment saying praying, or calling in peace or holding everyone in light. There is so much power in that as well. Until next time, bye.